Hi guys, as promised, here's your quick Photoshop tutorial on creating 3D text and getting that out as a movie if you don't want to use the simple stuff in Premiere and the stuff in After Effects isn't doing it for you. So here you go, you can see that I've got Photoshop CC 2015 open. You can do this on earlier versions if you want to. There's a couple of differences, but I'll point them out. So I'm just going to go new on there, I'm going to hit OK, and I'm not going to worry too much about what I've got. Just get that panel out of the way. So here we go. Got a new Photoshop file. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that I've got a colour in the foreground there before I click on the type tool. You can use any of the type tools to do this or any of the selection tools, as we'll see, but I'm just going to use the type tool to go create some text. So I'm just going to type my name in there like that, and what I want to do is I want to extrude this because at the moment I can only move it in 2 dimensions. I can move it left and right and up and down. Can't move it towards me, can't spin it around or anything like that. But we know that you can do 3D stuff in Photoshop, and how you do that is you go to the selection menu and choose new 3D extrusion, but you can see it's greyed out at the minute. The fact that it's on the select menu is a bit of a clue. What you have to do is you have to have what you want to be 3D to be selected. So I'm going to go on the selection tools up there and I'm going to use the magic wand tool. The only caveat here is I want to make sure that contiguous isn't ticked up on the control bar there, because if it is, when I click on one letter it's only going to get that because it just makes a contiguous selection. So if we untick that, click on there, it will jump the gaps and get all the other bits. So now I've got it selected, I'm going to go on to the move tool there, and obviously with it selected I can still move it in 2 dimensions. I can't move it in 3 dimensions, but with the selection, when I go on the select menu, now 3D extrusion is available. On really earlier versions of Photoshop, you found that on the 3D menu on a little flyer. It was called Repousse, but that was confusing people, so they changed it to this thing here. So we hit new 3D extrusion there, and what that will do is that will put me in a 3D workspace. And I'll see all these 3D controls on here. So what I will be able to do is with these controls up here, you can see drag the 3D object, slide the 3D object, scale the 3D object, roll the 3D object, or rotate the 3D object. You can, if you want to, use these control handles here as well. You've got a red X-axis control handle there, green Y-axis control handle there, and a blue Z-axis control handle that's kind of pointing towards you. And on all 3 of those axes there are 3 controls. You can see that on the tip what you'll get is movement. The middle bit that's like a little arc will give you rotation. So when you get on that bit you're going to be able to rotate the thing, and then the bit that's on the inside will allow you to scale it. So there are a few things that you can do. It might be a little bit more apparent on there. You can see there that I can move that thing, I can rotate it, or I can scale it like that. Yeah. So what I want to do now is I want to create a little animation, and then I want to export that so that I could use it over something in Premiere or Media Composer or Final Cut or whatever, or After Effects. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to get the video timeline up. Now, on earlier versions of Photoshop, you have an animation palette. Now, this stuff's listed alphabetically, so the animation palette would appear there. Later versions of Photoshop, they renamed the animation palette into the timeline palette, so you have to come down there. It's the same thing in both of them. There's a couple of little differences I'll point out, but it works basically the same. So when we get that thing up, you get this little panel here. It would say animation on earlier versions is called timeline there. Slight difference, if it's the animation panel, what you have is you have two little buttons in the bottom right hand corner. You can click on those and it toggles between video timeline and frame animation. On later versions you get this little drop away thing here where you can choose video timeline or frame animation. The only thing that catches people out with this is, now we're going to need a video timeline on it. The only thing that catches people out with it is they choose that and then the video timeline doesn't appear, and it's like, well, how do we get it going? Well, you actually have to click on the word, boom, like that, and that gives you your video timeline. You are able to create additional timelines by going new video group if you want, but we'll only need one for this, which is the text. Now, this is exactly the same as what you do in Premiere and After Effects and Final Cut and what have you. You keyframe along the timeline. So there is a reveal triangle here next to the name of the layer, and you can see all this keyframe stuff on here. Now, what I'm going to do is I will need to keyframe the 3D mesh there. Might want to keyframe the position, but this is like anything else. If you're not sure what you should be keyframing, you can always just turn them all on. like that, and then it won't be a problem. I would normally hit the position, the 3D camera position, and the 3D meshes, but you can have lights in here as well. You can see we've got a little light control up there, and if I click on that, what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to change the light direction, so you can see that messing around with where the light's coming from. So you can see on there 3D lights. If you wanted to start moving that around, what you could do is you could kind of keyframe the position of that, and then maybe move down the timeline and move the light somewhere else. So you could have, you know, sunrise going on or something like that. You can see that's added keyframes there. So any changes that we make to this, we're going to see them reflected on that. So here we go. I'll click on this thing here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that over there, and then you can see on here that what we've got up here is slide the 3D object, scale the 3D object, roll the 3D object, rotate it, all these kind of things on there. Yeah? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of move this thing around a little bit. So I've got a keyframe there, move down the timeline a little bit, and click on this thing, and I can go move that to a different location if I want. I get that kind of thing going on. Obviously what I am able to do is I'm able to sort of move this thing out and play around with it a little bit. And you can see on there that what we've got, rotate the 3D object, roll the 3D object, that thing there. If I've got the tooltip up, drag the 3D object, slide the 3D object. So all of these things that we can do to move this thing around if we really want to. So I've got some movement going on there, like that. And obviously when I go up there, you can see that what I've got also is this: zoom the 3D camera, slide the 3D camera. Now it's giving me camera options up there as opposed to object options because they clicked off the object. I've got options for the object, click off it, not got the object selected, and now what I've got is I've got the camera options on there. So we can see there that what I've got is these things: zoom the 3D camera, slide the 3D camera, or pan the 3D camera. So you can fly the cameras about as well as the object. So let's do a little bit of that. Yeah? In this position here, I've got that, and what I'll do is I'll go there and I'll move the camera about somewhere else. So I'll go on this thing here and move the camera there, and maybe tilt the camera and rotate it a little bit so I get kind of a little bit of dynamic movement going on. So what I'm going to get now is I'm going to get that kind of thing going on. Now you can see there at the start, oops, you know, can't really see that, so I don't know, maybe let's go for a middle position there and play around with the camera a little bit more, and then maybe get it there, come out on it a little bit. So we've got lots and lots of movement going on here, and it's kind of keyframing, and this thing's freaking about all over the place. Yeah? You do find that, you know, some object movements might clash with some camera movements, but obviously you can play around with that. It's all just keyframing. So now what I need to do is I need to export this. So I'll get that timeline out of the way, I'll just hit that there. And then I'll go to the File menu. I'm coming down to export there. The bit that I'm interested in is render video there. Sometimes on earlier versions you find that little fly out in different locations, but the bit you are interested in is render video, and that's not going to change. So it is always called that. So we hit render video, this little thing comes up. I'm going to call this title, nice and easy. I'm going to make sure it's on the desktop so it'll be easy to find. All of the other settings on there, you can have it as QuickTime H.264 DPX. Obviously, you can convert it to different formats if you want to do if you want it as an MPEG, you can use Media Composer or a compressor or something like that. At the moment, I'm going to get all frames of the animation. I can cherry pick a bit of it if I wanted to, and then I can play around with the quality. We can do things like, you know, if I want to render an alpha channel in the background, so I want a transparent background, I can do that sort of thing. But I'm just going to hit render like that. Boom, there it goes. It'll take a second or two to do that, but it shouldn't take long. So in the interim, what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank up Premiere, because what we'll do is we'll bring this into Premiere. So there's Premiere cranking up like that, and I will minimize Photoshop. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get this thing into Premiere. So I'll hit New Project, just leave it as an untitled project. I'm not going to worry about that too much. But what I will do is I'll bring in some video so that we can put that title over the top of it. So if I go in there, let's see what we can go for. Import recent file, let's go for that. You'll all recognize that. Phantom_007. This thing, the little Audi that's sort of skidding around the corner. So we've got that video footage there, like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in that clip. So we go File, Import, Command I if you prefer. I'm going to look on the desktop. There's my title movie there. I'm going to hit Open on that. Sure enough, that thing comes in. I'm going to drag that on there. And sure enough, what we can see is I've got some 3D text moving about. It's moving about in a little bit of a bizarre way because I moved the object and I moved the camera, but you can see that it works. But you can see there that what I've not got is I've not got a transparent background because I didn't render an alpha channel. Not a problem. What I can do is I can do that post-processing here. Got the effects menu there. Go to video effects there. Scroll down a little bit. There's keying on there, and I can use ultra key, and ultra key should sort this out fairly quickly because I've just got a white background on there. So I'm going to hit that and choose the little eyedropper there and hit the background there, and sure enough that's got rid of that straight away. So there you go, 3D text that is extruded. It doesn't have to be text, it could be anything you can draw with the selection tool. And get into Photoshop, you can extrude that, so you can create pretty much any object you want if you can draw a shape of it. So you can see how that works there. And then obviously it would be a case of whatever you want to do with it. If I want to move that thing around, scale it up or what have you, have it start over there, so that moves a little bit. You can see I can do all that kind of thing. Anyway, nice and easy, not that hard to do. So have fun with it. Cheers, guys. Bye.